know when WWE re-signed the Hardy Boys and we all got super excited about their broken gimmick making an appearance in the company where they made their names? And then do you remember Michael Cole effectively saying just before the Ultimate Deletion, and now some weird bollocks to appease the smarks? Vince McMahon doesn't get this, and what he doesn't get makes him scared and angry in ways he doesn't quite understand. Yeah, that's not an isolated incident in WWE. Anything that isn't originally their idea is weird and bad compared to 100% Vince McMahon certified concepts like this, and whatever the hell this is. WWE's solution to outside ideas? Ruin it. Because who wants to make money and be successful, eh lads? With that in mind, I'm Adam Wilborn from WhatCulture, and these are 10 times WWE ruined something they didn't create. Number 10, The Club. As part of Bullet Club, both Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson gave off a menacing aura that made them one of New Japan's finest tag teams. This was a long way from the nutty Festus gimmick Gallows had previously played in WWE. That aged well, but that brand of McMahon-led comedy would become part of his career once again. When WWE announced that they'd signed the team, fans familiar with their work in Japan started licking their lips. When will we learn we aren't allowed nice things? Surely the company would realise just how hard Gallows and Anderson had worked to build a reputation, and then capitalise on that by booking them as one of WWE's premier tag teams. Well, no. They carried around testicles in a jar instead. Now, post-comedy, Gallows and Anderson are reduced to whipping boy status, a position which defies their wonderful chemistry in ring. Abs Anderson doesn't deserve this. Number 9, Raven. When not even WCW could mess up the Raven character as badly as WWE did, you know there's a problem. Created for an ECW audience who enjoyed such multi-layered backstories, the Raven guys also worked in WCW for a spell. Sure, Raven was never going to crack a main event scene packed with guys like Hogan, Flair and Nash, but he did have a place on the card. In WWE, that place appeared to be at the bottom of the pile, next to guys like this bloody goober. As if casting the guy as some sort of jobber to the stars wasn't bad enough, WWE seemed to think the best way to exhibit Raven's psychologically damaged, borderline nihilistic personality was by putting him in a hardcore division more accustomed to delivering comedy. Oh well, could be worse. You could be. Number 8, Goldberg. Goldberg would be much closer to the top of this list had his second WWE run not been a success. It only took them 12 years to work out how to book him, which means by my calculations, Finn Balor is going to be good to go in 2028. If Goldust wasn't putting his wig on Bill, the WCW Hardman was working lengthy matches that didn't play to his strengths at all. There's a reason Goldberg's 2016-17 WWE matches only lasted a few minutes. Never one of the most technical stars in ring, Goldberg's attraction, a bit like me in the bedroom, relied on him blasting through opponents in quick, intense squashes. WWE didn't give him that the first time around. I wonder whose fault that might have been. Number 7, Sting. Sting was the guy in WCW throughout much of the 90s. When that company bit the dust in 2001, something which Vince McMahon thinks about just before he climaxes, the clamour to see Sting in the WWE was huge, but it seemed less and less likely with each passing year. Then Sting finally came in 2014. But as the saying goes, be careful what you wish for. We didn't get the dream match against The Undertaker people had salivated over for years. Nope. Instead, Sting lost both his WWE pay-per-view matches against Triple H and Seth Rollins before sadly being forced from the ring due to injuries. That was it. The big WWE run that once seemed so elusive. When WWE should have embraced the uniqueness of Sting, a huge star who had never been in the promotion before, they instead decided to tag the tired notion of us versus them onto his first feud and make it all about a WCW invader who wanted to ruin WWE. They tarred him with the invasion brush 14 years too late, neglected the one match everybody wanted to see, and treated him like a legend from elsewhere who was in over his head. Let it go, you old bastard! Number 6, Zack Ryder's Buzz. Zack Ryder's biggest push came in spite of WWE, which is a really crazy thing to say considering he was already on the talent roster when he caught fire. You know, he was the guy who cosplayed as Edge at Armageddon. There's no other way to view it. WWE's top brass didn't want fans to pay attention to Ryder. So, rather than roll with a success story that literally landed in their lap, they squashed it. Let that be a lesson to the rest of you. Racking up views on YouTube and gaining quite the following on social media, Zack's Z True Long Island story videos became a phenomenon, going viral and turning the then Superstars regular into one of the most over guys in the locker room. The YouTube stuff was Ryder's own work and had little to do with WWE's creative team. That's likely why the company didn't get behind it. Zack never reached the level his popularity merited. In fact, the biggest push he got from WWE was in a wheelchair off a stage. Number 5. The Great American Bash. WWE had the pick of any WCW pay-per-view name they wanted. Events like Starrcade and Halloween Havoc seemed logical, as did the chance to finally promote War Games under the WWE banner. None of those interested Vince McMahon though, because he wanted the Great American Bash instead. Murica. This was fine if WWE were prepared to treat the event with respect. Yeah, you can probably guess where this is going. Loyal fans who remember the show from the NWA's glory days were glad to see it back on the calendar, but 2004 would change all of that. So would each subsequent event, barring a few enjoyable matches, until WWE themselves did away with it completely. This was a worse wrestling comeback than Warrior. In 2009, WWE even retitled the event as The Bash. A bit like when Albert came back with a bloody face tattoo, changing the name doesn't make us forget, lads. Number 4. Vader. The addition of Vader to the WWF roster at the beginning of 1996 seemed massive at the time. One of WCW's biggest stars for years, the heavyweight heel would surely provide excellent foil for Shawn Michaels as WWF champion and also work wonders against the likes of The Undertaker, Bret Hart, and others. Arguably the only classic match Vader worked in the WWF was a fatal four-way at an In Your House event in February 1997. Aside from that, he rarely looked like the same beast he had when wrestling Sting, Ric Flair, and many more in WCW. By 1998, the WWF had shed Vader of his trademark mask, and he was calling himself a fat piece of, well, you know what, on pay-per-view. Lovely. He didn't manage a single title in the WWF and retreated to Japan after being reduced to glorified jobber status, losing to Mark Henry and Bradshaw on the way out. One of the 90s biggest heels was spoiled by the one company that should have known how to use him effectively. And we're not even in the top 3 yet. Number 3, the NWO. The NWO in WCW, it's fair to say, got a bit out of hand. Apparently WWE saw this and decided to kill it before it had a chance to do so in their organisation. In 2002, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash and Hollywood Hogan were cast as a lethal dose of poison, brought in to destroy the WWF at McMahon's behest. Well, that went well. Hogan would turn babyface and the likes of Big Show, Booker T and, oh good, X-Pac became members. Even adding D-Generation X figurehead Shawn Michaels to the faction did little to stop the rot, despite the notable mix of two super cool stables. Abandoned by July, the once proud NWO gimmick had been neutered under WWE's watch. Number 2. Diamond Dallas Page. Working his arse off and successfully transitioning from loudmouth manager to main event wrestler, a motivated DDP achieved his dream and became one of WCW's best-loved stars in the late 90s. In the spring of 1999, he delighted fans by bagging his first world title. A few years later, he was dead in the water upon finally reaching the WWF. Agreeing to take a financial hit and tear up his guaranteed contract with AOL Time Warner because he's nice like that, Page even accepted less money so he could be part of the invasion angle in the WWF. How did they repay him? Make him a weirdo who stalked The Undertaker's wife. What? Just go and watch his WCW run instead, or go and do some yoga. It's for the best, trust me. Number 1. ECW. That first ECW One Night Stand show in 2005 was great, wasn't it? WWE's love letter to the hardcore promotion's rabid fanbase, the event was a nostalgia blast that just worked. Unfortunately, WWE decided then to water it down more than the beer at my local and turn it into Simon Miller levels of cash cow status. Between 2008 and 2010, the weekly ECW show resembled Sunday Night Heat more than a tribute to Paul Heyman's original vision. Things had been shaky before then, but at least ex-ECW stars, aka Mad Bastards, like the Sandman Sabu and Rob Van Dam were part of things. By 2010, Tiffany was the brand's GM, and Ezekiel Jackson was champion. Need I say any more?